Hey everyone, so I'm finally back with another video, and this video is actually something I wanted to put out before 2018 was over, but if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you will know that I have been so very sick. I honestly have not been that sick in probably 10 or more years. I have a pretty good immune system usually, but I was hit with constant in and out of fevers, and it was awful. I could not even get out of bed, and when I finally was able to get out of bed, I was still really sick, really lightheaded, and just did not feel capable of filming and then editing. But I am on the mend and feeling a bit better, so I thought I would sit down and get this Q&A going. Now, the reason I decided to do this cosplay Q&A video was because when I did my giveaway, I received a lot of questions in the entry form. So I do normally answer all questions in comments and in DMs and private messages, but I opened it up for questions for a video so that way people could refer back to this and maybe I will answer something that they didn't think to ask, something they've been curious of. I'm not sure, why does anybody really do a Q&A? But I did get a lot of really good questions that I am looking forward to answering, so let's get started. So I did say that these questions would remain anonymous, and the first one is, how do you choose which character to cosplay? I always get second thoughts when I choose one. This happens to me as well. Sometimes you will be so down to do a character and get started, buy the fabrics, do the research, all that good stuff, and then another character just pops up and pushes all of your plans aside. It's completely okay for that to happen. You could be in the middle of a cosplay and then move on to a secondary one instead. You just have to follow your inspiration. Sometimes I find that if I'm being more drawn to another costume instead of the one I'm already working on, I will continue working on the first one with the end goal of, once I finish this one, then I can start on that one. It's a little difficult sometimes, but I find that that's the best way to not end up with a lot of discarded projects. Another way to avoid having that problem is to choose a character or costume design that you really enjoy overall versus something that you just like in the moment. Because if you just like it in the moment, like there's a lot of hype following it or something like that, it's going to be a lot easier for you to lose the inspiration and the drive to work on it when something else comes around. So question number 2 is, what is the thing you like the most about cosplay, and then what is something you really don't like about cosplay? So there's a lot of things that I really like about cosplay. If there was just one thing, I don't think I would keep doing it because that's not really enough to stay in this hobby. But I like, obviously, the crafting process. I like putting the entire outfit together, making it out of nothing, and then just seeing the entire culmination of all of my hard work with the wig and the outfit and everything just come to life, getting the pictures taken, hanging out with friends in costume, cosplaying with friends. Like, it's all really good stuff, and it's just fun to pretend to be, you know, someone else for a little while. In terms of something I don't like about cosplay, I'm honestly gonna have to say the community. I know that sounds a little weird, but the community in the last few years has gotten very toxic. There are a lot of people who have large amounts of followers who say some pretty awful things, do some pretty awful things, and are just acting really badly. They give cosplay a bad name, basically. I know I personally had to deal with bullying from the cosplay community not too long ago. I know there are people who are still dealing with it to this day, and it can just be very draining and very destructive to a person's passion for cosplay, I guess you could say. So the community, not all of it obviously, but a big portion of it is probably my least favorite thing. So I try to just keep my head down and stay away from people I know are problematic. This cat is driving me crazy, this tail. So the third question is, who are you going to cosplay as in 2019? This is a little difficult to answer because I only have 2 things that are actually set. Oh, this cat. That are set to be done in 2019, and they're both secrets for now. The first one I will probably be announcing on Instagram not that long from now, but I want to get all the patterning and stuff done so that way when I make the highlight and the progress thread, I can just push through and continuously update versus dealing with a bunch of hiccups here and there. That's what happened the last time I tried to do that, and it really just crushed my vibe, honestly. The second one I know for sure I'm doing is a secret. I'm doing it with a friend for San Japan to kind of fit the convention's theme this year, so I'm really excited for those to come together as well, but that's not until the later half. I do want to fit other cosplays. I want to get a lot done this year, but I just haven't really narrowed it down too much yet. The next question, how do you get past challenges and roadblocks related to cosplay? So this is a little vague. In terms of challenges and roadblocks in the crafting process, there is always a way to make anything. Whether you're using a new material or a new technique, sometimes it can be costly to make these mistakes and you can feel disheartened if you can't figure out how to get this one thing done. So usually when that happens and I'm feeling disencouraged, I will set that aside and work on something different. I don't know if everybody has this, but I know when I was struggling just recently on a pattern, it just wasn't sitting how I wanted, it wasn't acting how I wanted, and as I was going to bed, my mind was like racing with all these different, what if you do it like this instead? What if you do it like this instead? So I kind of typed those things down in my phone, gave them a try the next day, and I found the method that I wanted to use. So it definitely helps to just step back and walk away from the project for a little bit. That's why con crunch is so bad, because you don't have the time to step back and you end up making mistakes or cutting corners, when if you had just given yourself a little bit more time, you could have figured out a better way to do whatever it was you were trying to do. So for the next question, I actually got this a couple of times, and it's how important is binding to crossplay, and or do you bind for cosplay? So when I am crosplaying, I do bind. I don't have a very large chest. I'm probably average. Personally, I don't feel like it is, like if you don't bind, then your cosplay is worthless and it looks like crap. That's just not the case. Honestly, it's up to each person what they feel comfortable with doing. Some people are very uncomfortable when they bind and don't want to do it, and that's totally fine. It's completely up to you. It's your cosplay. I personally use, the brand is GC2B. I use a binder by them and it is phenomenal. It is very, very comfortable. It's a little tight when you first put it on, but if you get the right size, you can honestly forget that you even have it on. You could just go all day and feel very, very comfortable. But the most important thing is, if you do decide to bind, you need to be safe about it. Use an actual binder. Don't use any cut corner ways like duct tape or ace bandage. There is plenty of research out there online telling you exactly why these things are bad. So do it the proper way or don't do it at all. But at the end of the day, it's not that important to a crossplay. It doesn't make or break the costume. It is completely up to you. The next question is, would you ever go to an out-of-state con? The answer is absolutely. I would love to go to an out-of-state con. I have been going to nothing but conventions in Texas for years, and quite honestly, the people are great and the conventions are great, but they start to feel the same. They have a lot of the same vendors, a lot of the same guests, and some of them even have very, very similar layouts. So I go to them mostly to just hang out with friends and shop, but even that sometimes isn't really enough for how much they cost to get travel, hotel, things like that. So if I'm going to be spending money on a con, I would absolutely love going to something that's out of state, that's new, that's refreshing, and just seeing what else there is out there. I have friends that do ASIN, KatsuCon, Colossal Con, and they always tell me they're great, so maybe one day I will get to one. So if you have an out-of-state convention that you can recommend, throw it down in the comments and I will do some research. The next question I got after that one is, what's the best wig styling product you've used? So personally, I don't like to make my wigs out of commission after just one costume. I like the idea that if I'm never gonna cosplay this character again, I can wash out the wig and use it for something else if the time comes. So obviously, like most people, I love the Got2b brands. Even back when I was doing hair, I liked to use those on clients as well. They have a lot of holding power without getting white or flaky in the hairspray specifically, and the gel, the glue gel that holds the ends doesn't really get white or flaky. I've seen some people who use glue and it's just, it may look good in pictures, but in person you can tell that it's glue, and I just like my wigs and their stylings to look as natural as possible, sort of as if the character was real and this is what their hair would really look like, versus something that is super stiff and sculpted. But that's just personally me, so I definitely recommend Got to Be Glued. I know it's a very generic answer, but it is one of the best. Hopefully I'm not rambling too fast and I'm answering these questions well. I'm trying to get as many of them into this video as I can without the video being super long, but let's keep going. The next question, and this is a good one, I'm just not sure how to answer. If you could travel to any 3 cons anywhere in the world, all expenses paid, what would they be? So honestly, that would be awesome, especially if all, you know, expenses are paid and I would just have to show up and like have fun at them. Definitely out of country conventions for sure, because anything in country is doable already with the money I do have. So things like international travel and stuff, that's what I'd want the expenses to be taken care of, but I don't really know any cons out of the country. I know they exist and I know I've heard different convention names, but I don't know which ones are the best. Maybe one for sure that's in Japan. I would love to see some of those costumes that I see online in person. It would just be awesome. And then plus I'd get to be like in Japan, so I could probably take a few days to explore and enjoy the country, but other than that, I don't know. All of them. I want to go to all of them. This next question is actually pretty funny. I never thought about it, but I feel like it's something I should have thought about. It says, I'm not too sure what name to call you. Should we just call you Hatter? So Hatter is fine. I do have some people who call me by my nickname of a nickname, which is LY, so it can be said as Lai or Lee. There's really no wrong way, either one of those. I understand that you're talking to me. Usually though, when I do meet people in person and they introduce themselves, I just give you my first name. I just don't like to put my first name online for a lot of obvious reasons, especially previously mentioned, the whole bullying and all that. So I try to keep some parts of my personal life private by not giving out my first name or my last name. So yeah, Hatter is fine. Lai, Lee, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Up next, have you ever destroyed a sewing machine? No, luckily I have not. I have only had 3 sewing machines my entire time cosplaying. The first one was my mother's. It was very, very old. It had only a few different stitches. I worked on that for a little while, and then I bought this $70 cheap one from Walmart, worked on that one for a long time, and then upgraded to the one I have now a few years ago. And the one from Walmart is out in the garage, and the one that was older, I think we might have donated it. I'm not sure where it ended up. I never destroyed one. I have destroyed costumes with sewing machines, but I've never actually destroyed a machine, luckily. And I think a part of that is probably because I do always tend to upgrade my machine like I do with my cameras. After a few years, I buy like the newer models just so I have something that's fresh, new, can do new things. Maybe if I held on to one long enough, I probably would end up destroying it, but so far not yet. So I've tried to answer this last question 5 or 6 times, and I keep re-recording it because I keep rambling, losing my train of thought, and I just don't really know how to answer it. So essentially it is, if this is too personal to answer, just ignore, but what is your sexual identity? So I don't want to ignore it because I know a lot of people put their pronouns and things like that in their profile so that everyone can address them correctly, and I never really have. So I don't want people to feel confused when addressing me or feel in the back of their mind like maybe they've done something wrong or they don't know how to talk to me, because I'm very approachable, I'm very easy to talk to, but essentially it doesn't matter. I'm very, very fluid in terms of pronouns. I will answer. I will not be bothered or offended by any pronoun. I've gotten all of them over the course of basically my entire life. So there's no wrong way to address and talk to me. So that was it, an awkward end to an awkward video. I want to say thank you to everyone who did use the submission form to wish me better and hope that I, would get better soon. Thank you guys so much for your concern. I am feeling better finally. Still a bit sick, but on the mend, on the better half of the mend, so I will take what I can get. But yes, so hopefully this Q&A was a little interesting to you guys. Hopefully I answered some of the questions you may have had, and of course if you have any other questions, feel free to throw them down in the comments. If you would like something more private, feel free to message me on Instagram or Twitter. I will always answer you guys as best as I can, and of course keep things anonymous. I do have Tumblr as well, which does have an anonymous feature on its asking if you want to be like super anonymous, but I don't check it too often, but I can, you know, check it more often, I guess. But yeah, you can always use that as well. There are tons of ways to reach me, and there's no such thing as a stupid question. So I appreciate you guys so much for your patience and understanding in this little gap of not uploading. I will also be taking a small break from YouTube. I will be uploading videos here and there, but I won't be doing a strict weekly schedule. I just have a lot going on right now. I have cosplays I need to work on. I have the next patch for Final Fantasy XIV, Kingdom Hearts 3. I have a trip coming in February, which I will be filming. So these first few months of the year are pretty busy. So I'm gonna upload as much as I can, but it probably won't be weekly. Hopefully you guys understand, and thank you for understanding. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I feel I've rambled enough, and I will see you in the next one.